I need extra power
Is Abraham
to deal
Lincoln
with
a
this.
dictator?
Well, look,
Yes or no?
we are not in a war situation.
Is Abraham Lincoln a dictator?
We are not in a war situation.
Yeah,
is the point.
Was Abraham Lincoln a dictator?
We are not in a war situation. Is the point.
Okay, you are right. I'll just say you're right. Okay, now
Tim Pool was on the Triggernometry podcast saying typically stupid Tim Pool things. Sam Seder on the Majority Report broke all this down. We're going to take a look at clips of Tim Pool on Triggernometry, as well as Sam Seder dunking on Tim Pool and making fun of him. I have my thoughts to share on this as well. Let's check it out together.
He thought a couple of years ago, I'm going to be making all this money from Russia. He didn't know it was from Russia at the time. It was from Gerard Depardieu or somebody like that. And then all that money went away. And so he's got to get back to the Civil War thing. Here he is. Also, you know what else I notice? He's wearing the exact same sweatshirt, too, every day now. Wasn't he wearing that same one the other day that we were looking at, the clip of him?
Sometimes he has a blazer over the hoodie, but yeah.
Okay.
like Abraham Lincoln was the bad guy, or do we say
He's talking about how Abe Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in the course of the Civil War.
Oh, so in other words, there was an actual war going on in the country, and Lincoln suspended habeas corpus.
Yeah.
Okay.
in times of war, a wartime president makes difficult decisions which are outside what our principles purport to be?
But we're not in the time of war.
And it's also as well, Tim. No, we're not.
So when
Tim, can I just make a point? And this
we are in
is
time of war.
Right. Okay. We'll come to that in a second. When the government takes away rights, it is very difficult, if not almost impossible, for you to get them back. Can we just agree that?
Yes.
So you are willing to give up rights in this society for the government to then come in and then enact against the enemies?
When have humans ever not done that? Give me one example. One.
In civilized society.
Not true. In World War II, the United States
Let's pause it. Hold on for 1 second. This is... He wants an example of when people have never taken away.
It's funny because he's listing exceptions, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's like a double negative, right? When have humans not taken away habeas corpus?
It's like, well, I can mention the time that it was in Civil War. And also, okay, I'll do another example, which was World War II, which is, again, like, also, we shouldn't have done a lot of things that we did do during World War II.
Well, I think we can look back in all of our history and say there were things that we shouldn't do.
Right.
Like slavery, like extermination and genocide of Native Americans. Like internment, like
current immigration stuff,
Jim Crow laws, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm not even necessarily convinced that once you suspend rights, they never come back. Right. It'd be much harder to put people into concentration camps. At least I like to think so. That are American citizens today. It may not be, but I would like to think it would be a little bit more difficult. It's going to be even tricky for them to put undocumented immigrants in mass concentration camps in this country. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to be able to, but there's going to be, I think, probably a little bit more pushback. Now, maybe if we were at war with El Salvador or something, I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a scenario, but we're not at war right now by any stretch of the imagination or any definition. Let's put it this way. If we're at war right now, there is no time where we've never been at war.
Yeah.
Good.
Give me one example. One.
In civilized society.
Not true. In World War II, the United States implemented the U.S. Office of Censorship and banned people from...
It's interesting that you say this because all anti-Ukraine people in America keep calling Zelensky a dictator for having martial law, which is in line with the Ukrainian constitution, and not having an election like the UK didn't have.
He declared it, and the Constitution says that he can declare it and Congress can uphold it. There's an argument that it can be, he can overturn it.
Well, my point is...
But I agree, in a time of war, presidents do crazy things.
But you are stretching the definition of war way beyond its remit.
No, I'm not. It's called fifth and sixth generational warfare. So we have technological advances in conflict, and they alter how we perceive what war is. If you go back to the earliest days, what is the purpose of a conflict? Why do wars happen? Sometimes they're silly. You don't believe in the same God as me, so you must be destroyed. I mean, these are largely silly, but they have to do with cultural cohesion, so they come from somewhere from an evolutionary psychological perspective. But typically it's resource conflict. Resource is the principal driver. I do think it's absolutely hilarious that the East India Trading Company engaged in warfare that resulted in the death of 50,000 people because black peppercorn was a delicacy, was a luxury in Europe and UK. But typically it's, I don't have enough food or water, and I will take it, and my people will not die. I don't care how I have to get it. And it's the same thing you see at the root level with a man who steals bread.
Oh, we're going to pause it for 1 second. Wait a second. I just want you to know, like, I think what he was arguing is that we're at war right now. Instead, he clearly has boned up for this and studied about what is war about. And I'm going to, I don't know what he read or listened to and memorized for this interview. But he's so excited to be able to project that he is smart enough to know that war is about resources unless it's not. And it's just about, my God's better than your God. And
Sam Seder doesn't really get into this. This is a long, almost half-hour thing. I'm not going to play the whole thing. If you want to go to the Majority Report channel and watch the whole thing, you can see it all there. But they never really come back to this thing that Tim Pool says about if a guy steals a banana, which I wish they would get more in depth with that. But it's like, if a guy steals a banana, we're at war. So if somebody goes into a grocery store and steals a banana, I guess, in his scenario, it would be an immigrant. An immigrant steals a banana, then they have to send the military in to fight the guy. It just makes no sense. But the problem with people like Tim Pool and so many of these right-wing talkers and, this current administration is Tim Pool is a guy who's dumb, but also incredibly sure of himself. And that's a really bad combination when somebody is stupid, but also absolutely convinced that he is right or they are right. And so a guy like Tim Pool is never going to back down. He's always, and we're going to see a really stupid example with this here with the trigonometry guys coming up here in just a moment.
peppercorn. That was one of the anecdotes that amused me about the peppercorns. But the question is, how is it that we're at war? And he's basically come up with a new definition of war, a more modern definition, which is war that is so subtle that we don't know about it. Now, people used to call this economic war or just trade.
Also, lawfare is another sort of type of thing.
Without a doubt. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is really just sixth generation war.
When you think about it, we actually have been doing World War III for the last
Don't
years.
make me quote Clausewitz.
And apparently in Tim Pool's mind, the fact that immigrants are coming here and picking crops and working in hotels and that kind of thing, that is warfare somehow. Again, the military isn't battle. I mean, I'm sure the Trump administration would like to do that, and they're essentially doing that with ICE, but we're not seeing people in the streets, immigrants throwing Molotov cocktails and flying jets over to fight our military, or the immigrants don't have AK-47s and having shootouts in the street with our police or our military. I mean, Tim Pool is a moron.
But even though I do actually happen to have the quote right here. All right, let's continue.
Family is hungry or whatever, we still frown upon it. So the generations of warfare, they evolve. We see the advents of new technologies and new methodologies in warfare all the time. If the purpose of warfare is to secure control of a population so you can control its resources, a tendency for that reason, sometimes it's, my God is better than your God, and your people must adhere to my worldview and my beliefs. So in the United States, we are going through, and this is not my opinion, this is academics who have assessed what warfare is.
Whoa, okay. Well, wait a second. If it's academics who decided this, well, then hello, okay.
I'm not going to name one of them.
Yeah. All the academics, too, have lined up with we all have met and have decided, excuse me while I draw on my pipe, that Tim Pool is correct in his assessment of our new type of war. Good.
Sixth, which we are going through, and this is not my opinion, this is academics who have assessed what warfare is. You get to fourth and fifth generational warfare, now sixth, which people are going to argue it as we form these ideas in academia. Sixth may change, but fourth and fifth have to do with online political manipulations, manipulations of influence technologies, and use of insurgency. Today, it's fair to say that we are in a kinetic conflict. Civil strife began several years ago in the United States. Civil strife is not civil war, but there are many people dying. One of the easiest examples, of course, is Aaron Danielson took 2 bullets to the chest from a far leftist Michael Reinhold with a communist tattoo on his neck for no reason.
Pause it for a second. So one guy getting shot, and wasn't that like 4 years ago?
It's a shot heard around the world.
Wasn't that 4 years ago?
I don't even know if it's the actual violence, though. He's saying like the internet, the engaging on the internet. Like this.
No. There's kinetic activity right now, which constitutes a 6th generation war, according to academics. Russ, you're arguing with academics, not with me.
I just want to be careful because it seems like we might be engaging now in an active war.
This could be. We're both being kinetic. I mean, it's true.
Maybe by the 7th generation.
There's kineticism here. There's kineticism.
There's some other good examples.
Wait. Let's continue on here. I want to hear about this.
Chest from a far leftist Michael Reinhold with a communist tattoo on his neck for no reason. And now we have the swattings of conservatives and the firebombings of Tesla facilities for the specific goal of destroying a company for political reasons, for which now Tesla stock has gone down. Partially, it's not the only reason. And we've seen Tesla evicted from the Vancouver Auto Show out of fear of terror attacks.
Oh, wait a second. I didn't know about the eviction of the Vancouver Auto Show. Whoa.
Sorry, I got to take your mic down a little bit.
Oh, boy. That was a problem.
Yeah.
We got to cut that out of the audio
Edit
version.
that out of the podcast, yeah.
That was kinetic.
That was kinetic. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't realize about the Vancouver Auto Show. We are at war. This is war. Suspend habeas corpus for the sake of the auto shows.
I'm going to actually skip a little bit ahead here. I mean, there's...
Whoa. Convenient, Matt.
Okay, I'll play
so that we take him out of context, I guess.
Fine, I'll play this a little bit more and then we'll skip ahead.
Is war. Now, it may not be full-blown hot kinetic conflict, but when you have the arrest of Donald Trump's lawyers, we are dealing with administrative warfare, which is a degree of administrative conflict, which we don't see in previous times based on communications technologies. If you go back several hundred years.
What is he talking about?
Words mean anything. He's just stringing together words.
Yeah.
Administrative conflict, the arresting of his... is he talking about Rudy Giuliani?
And the other woman who got that, you remember when you said, I don't care about the people that got arrested when you were in his studio?
I feel like I certainly said that to myself many, many times in my head while I was there. But administrative conflict that is now like what? So when you arrest a lawyer of Donald Trump's, then we're at war. Who are we at war? Okay, good.
If a judge is arrested for like immigrant stuff or whatever,
not so much war. That's not war. Okay.
Skipping a little bit ahead here where it gets a little bit more testy.
By sending American citizens to El Salvador, I will be opposed in every form that I can, and it's going to be interesting if it gets to that degree. That being said, what it comes to an actual wartime president in Trump is when Trump issues a legal order, executive order, saying
Trump is not a wartime president. Tim Pool, you are an idiot. We are not at war with El Salvador or Mexico or any of the countries in Central or South America. You are an idiot.
We will not have these people in our military. I'm the commander in chief. He's allowed to do it. If a judge tries to stop him in this administrative conflict, Donald Trump, I believe, is obligated to say, I have heard the ruling from the court. Now try and enforce it, which is a play on Andrew Jackson's famous quote when the Supreme Court ruled against him. In the conflict we are in...
I love how professorial he is.
It's unbelievable.
was a commensurate
This
power.
guy wasn't the Supreme Court. There's a whole legal process yet to go through, which is part of the American process. Now, I appreciate what you're saying, but it just sounds to me like you're redefining wars to give yourself more power. Which
I didn't
is
define them.
Which is what every
Academics
dictator has always done in history, which is to say, the situation's so bad, I need extra power
Is
to
Abraham
deal
Lincoln
with
a
it.
dictator?
Well, look,
Yes or no?
we are not in a war situation.
Is Abraham Lincoln a dictator?
We are not in a war situation.
Yeah,
is the point.
was Abraham Lincoln a dictator?
We are not in a war situation. Is the point.
Okay, you're right. I'll just say you're right. Okay, now is Abraham Lincoln a dictator?
So look,
Yes or no?
Tim, the theoretical examples you give,
It's not a theoretic. It's American history.
fine, but it's not related to the current moment, which is what we're talking about.
So in the
So you're
context
saying,
of
let me just lay out the argument that you made. If I represent it incorrectly, you tell me. The core of your argument that you're making, right, is that because we are in a fourth, fifth, sixth generational warfare situation, a different set of rules ought to apply. It's a wartime, therefore, just like you can apply martial law, just like you can suspend this or that or whatever, right? And the point I'm making to you is this is the argument that every dictator in history has made. Now, I don't know American history as well as you, and maybe...
Pause it. Hold on for 1 second. I got to take issue with that. I find it hard to believe that someone doesn't know American history as well as Tim Pool. But fair enough.
I'm going to stop here because this continues to just devolve and go further and further into the weeds as Tim Pool keeps asking the trigonometry guys if Abraham Lincoln was a dictator, and the trigonometry guys don't say whether he's I mean, maybe eventually they do. I haven't gotten to the end of there's another like 15 minutes of this. I haven't gotten to the end of it, but I don't know why in that scenario why the trigonometry guys don't say to Tim Pool, okay, Tim, Abraham Lincoln was a dictator, or Abraham Lincoln was not a dictator. We don't really know what you want to say here, but you've got some gotcha in there that you want to. So let's just get that out of the way so we can talk about something else. But I'm assuming I don't hang out in these areas. So, anybody in the comments, if you know about this, you can chime in. But I'm assuming that Tim Pool gets all this stuff about the whatever generational warfare and all of that from incels on 4chan and 8chan. This just seems like the dumb, or, on X. There's a lot of incel types on there that I'm sure would throw out this insanity, but I wanted to share this because I think it's just funny to see Sam Seder and Matt Leck and these other guys in the Majority Report just dunk on Tim Pool and make fun of him because he's just such a clown and a moron, but nothing is really learned here. I mean, this was just more for entertainment, but I find it pretty funny that these trigonometry guys are just looking at Tim Pool and just saying like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this. Do you agree with Tim Pool or do you agree with Sam Seder? Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.